Well, now you know how I felt every week when I had to review Delicious Party Pretty Cure. We return right where we left off from last time, with Yaiba seemingly coming out to have a face-off with Tsurugi. And if the fight between Geats and a dragon with big-ass buster sword wasn't awesome enough for you, let's not forget to point out who's voicing this guy.
人はよ、役屋を刃と呼ぶ。
あと、ボイスがグリーンリーバーだとさらに 90% アップ!
If he's not insisting to play Hiro Yui for the millionth time in an SRW game, this guy always makes for a good rival character. Anyway, this all just turned out to be a message, projected by the defeated Stinger, likely as a means of intimidating Tsurugi. Ringer then went on to explain more about their situation.
ブリンガーは回答する。
おっと、まずそれやめよ。いちいちブリンガーは。
Well, at least he's not talking with a really thick Austrian accent. At the same time, Yaiba himself was having a meeting with his generals, who also possessed sword eyes, Gordy, Brow, and Amarello. Yeah, there has to be one of these characters in every season of this franchise. Not complaining, mind you. But yeah, all of them were Eyes of Darkness, while Tsurugi was the first Light Eye they had discovered. More on that in the next episode, as Brow and Gordy offered the services of their soldiers. The former in particular wanted to make up for letting Bringer escape 14 years prior. Back with said card Terminator, he explained how he had stumbled upon Tsurugi's adoptive grandparents, leading to a bit of a Clark Kent situation, with the old couple deciding to adopt the abnormal child after listening to a message from the parent. Yeah, thankfully, they didn't beat around the bush and outright confirmed that Granada was Tsurugi's mother, and therefore the second prince of the kingdom, with Yaiba being his older brother. In turn, Tsurugi also didn't want to waste any time, and just decided to go rescue his mom, even though he admitted he had initially given up on trying to find his birth parents, but also didn't want to run away from his past and someone who was clearly in danger. It's stuff like this that does make me appreciate some of the faster pace of these initial episodes, as it does make the characters kind of react in ways that do make sense for their current situations. Bringer has no reason to hide Tsurugi's origins, and Tsurugi himself, while having never met his mom, is still a good kid who wants to help those in need, so good job there in my opinion. We then got our battle of the episode when one of Gordy's subordinates, Cornell, attacked the village, and while he was obviously a jobber, I mean just look at him, I will say they went all in on making this guy a disgusting bug who not only tried to gaslight Tsurugi, but also relied heavily on mind games involved in this card game. He likely did this as he didn't have a particularly strong deck, so bluffs were probably his best weapon, but from the meta sense, he did also highlight an important aspect of the game. In the last episode, we kind of talked about flash timing effects that occur when either player declares an attack, but green decks in particular take advantage of it. So, an interesting little aspect about Battle Spirits is how each of the deck styles basically follow the elements they're based on. Red decks like Tsurugi's are based around fire, so they have a lot of destruction effects, while green represents wind, so they're like fragile speedsters who use effects during the flash timing step, like Dark Mach G here, which can summon itself. Now, there's no actual point in summoning it during the player's attack, as it's pretty much no different than a normal summon, but during the opponent's attack, like Tsurugi here, when he thought he could just go straight for Cornell's life. Again, I really like this aspect of these first few episodes, as they really are an extended tutorial of the game, which is important for anyone new to it. They also subtly went over how levels work in this game that are dependent on the number of cores on the spirit. In Cornell's case, he strengthened his units so that they could defeat Tsurugi's spirits if he blocked, while conversely, Tsurugi lowered his spirits levels so that he would have enough to summon Shining Dragon and pull off his trademark combo, which quickly won him the battle, of course. Again, jobber mostly here for tutorial purposes. With that, the episode ended on a pretty sweet note, with Tsurugi's grandparents giving him both a new ride and their approval to go to Metropolis, Atlantia. Again, while a little cliched, I do like the characterizations in the show. Hey, as long as he doesn't end up turning evil or something. God, that's become such an overused trope. We'll just roll into the next episode, as I do think it's best to cover both of these episodes in conjunction. Tsurugi and Bringer arrived at the harbor that had boats directly going to Atlantia. Of course, the Stinger droids were still looking for them, so they had to sneak on very subtly. You're really gonna make me use that Terminator clip, aren't you? And I suppose even the Stingers didn't have to deal with that cringe, so they just let him on the boat. And after getting some nice character development for Tsurugi, we were introduced to my favorite character in this show. But yeah, Kizakura here was the yellow sword eye of light, which kind of rightfully got Tsurugi asking what the hell is the lore behind all of these damn eyes? And we, the audience, got something of an explanation when this literal voice from the heavens started speaking. Well, I'll take him over Wade. I mean, at least he's not being held up by some writer strikes. So, little background here. Justice Tachibana here is an alter ego for his VA, Shinosuke Tachibana, who is a real-life spokesman for this TCG, and I guess just has the power to go into any anime adaptation of it. Yeah, just don't question it, or why they seem to have whitewashed Kanata. Anyway, he explained how the big MacGuffin of the show was a blade of the gods called the Sword of Judgment that would appear before anyone who managed to assemble all of the sword eyes and their respective swords in one place. Don't worry, the show won't pull a sequel trilogy on us either, but yeah, there were sword eyes of light and darkness representing each of the 6 deck colors of this game, totaling 12 warriors. Yaiba and his generals made 4 for the side of darkness, with him just needing to convince a red and purple warrior to join his side, while they were just gonna straight up capture the warriors of light. Hey, at least they don't be around the bush like the Organization 13. Anyway, even though she had an eye, Kizakura wanted nothing to do with this conflict, and hadn't even bothered to track down her sword brave yet. Thus, she and the boys went their separate ways, but something seemed to flicker in her eyes that wasn't a sword. With that, they arrived at the capital, and can we just take a quick minute to appreciate the visual storytelling here? Like, I know we're making it a little hard to read some of these subtitles, but just looking at some of the scenery, you can really read into at least some clear infrastructure problems in the city, like maybe it isn't even too dissimilar from where you live, though maybe just a little less tyrannical feeling. In short, good on them for providing more world building than Skyline has gotten in half a season of Hirogara Sky. Anyway, after mistaking a portrait of his mom for the real thing, Tsurugi ended up getting cornered by the Stingers. Bringer tried to defend him in some pretty awesome fashion, but was taken out by a kamikaze attack. Thus, Tsurugi was taken to his brother, who did offer him the chance to save himself and their mother through the children's card game. Okay, we just got some great visual storytelling a minute ago, so we can give them a little leeway. But yeah, they also pointed out how this would be the first battle Tsurugi would have to go through without his tutorial guide, and to his credit, while he didn't play optimally, I wouldn't say he made any notable misplays either, and he was doing okay until Yaiba brought out his own god of destruction. And while he only went in with a normal attack at first, during the next turn, he showed off the Nine-Tailed Dark's effects, which could only be accessed at level 3. At that level, it could bounce an opponent's spirit back into their hand, and if they also had a green spirit on the field, they could additionally tap another monster. As explained by the narrator, this effect was called the Rush, and it was thematically the Dark Sword Eyes counter to the charges of the Light Eyes. On that note, Tsurugi tried to win with his usual combo, but it literally fizzled out, as Yaiba had seemingly calculated for this by simply not having destructible spirits on his field, and instead used them as fodder to power up his stronger cards. Again, not necessarily a misplay by Tsurugi, as he probably just didn't have any more charges to increase the destruction effect of Shining Sword, and at the very least, he managed to take out Dark Uranus through battle, so it was all good, right? Well... When brave, Midnight Sun gives its wielder access to its rush effects even if the necessary spirit wasn't on the field. Thus, even though Tsurugi had left 2 blockers on his side, they were both taken out, allowing Yaiba to go in for game. Yeah, the rival character beat the protagonist clean in just the 3rd episode of the show. I really like this for reasons we'll get into in just a bit, but for now, the episode ended with Bringer somehow returning after all of that, and rescuing Tsurugi, though not unscathed. To me, this show depicts how not just a card game protagonist, but a shonen protagonist in general should be handled. Obviously, they should start by making them likable, which can be done with some amiable traits like having a good family life, but you also shouldn't make them look too perfect or undefeatable. I think these 2 episodes managed to get across both that strong character and world building very effectively. When a shonen protagonist is defeated, which they should be on occasion, and not go through pretty much their entire series undefeated, it should be a bit of an event, especially after their first L. Like, not only should it be against a significant opponent and not just some random jobber, but it should also be a clean win and not by something like an arbitrary time limit or some other BS. It gets across that they're a little in over their head and need to grow from it, while also making their antagonist look like a strong obstacle to overcome. Tsurugi losing to Yaiba was not only done early into the series, but it was also fully justified. Our protagonist had only defeated 2 total jobbers, but to him, they were big victories. As a result, Tsurugi went in, still mostly as just a total noob, against a far more experienced player, figuring that he could win with his usual plays. It didn't pan out like that, and not even because his brother had stronger cards. I mean, they were both playing with starter deck cards for now. He was just outplayed and needed to learn more effective strategies. Losses like this get us invested in the character's arc, especially when they're shown to be as humble and as likable as Tsurugi. No one is forcing him to do anything, he's just doing what he thinks is right, including rescuing a parent that he hasn't even met yet. Little things like that, plus some effective world building, really makes the show all the more engaging. And really, these 2 episodes managed to cram in a lot of lore, and even some character introductions, but none of it really felt rushed, and it is building to some great stuff later. And overall, these first 3 episodes really got me hooked into the series about a forgotten prince trying to take back his mother and kingdom with a children's card game. Again, give them some leeway, at least these battles still look really good. Hope everyone is having a nice week, and even if you're not, well, at least you're halfway through it. We'll at least try to make some entertaining videos for y'all, just to make it through the mind-numbing tedium of everyday life. Look forward to it, and more. And until next time, though, farewell for now, my friends, and, hey, those are my sunglasses.
Talk to the hand.